Hi guys, this is Gauri from Eber. Welcome to our customer experience podcast series. Today we have Ian Williams, the Chief Experience Officer from Jericho. Now, Ian has over 25 years of experience working with companies from many different industries, including travel, financial services, retail, utilities, and so much more. And he's helped all of them understand customer experience and make it work for them. And we're so happy to have him here today to discuss customer experience with us, or CX in short. Okay, so Ian, when a company hires you to help revamp their CX strategy, what are some of the steps that you follow? Can you walk us through it?
Okay, so there are a number of different processes that you can follow depending on the nature of the business that you go into and also the nature of the problem.
Mhm.
And it also depends on the scale that you're being asked to look at the issue. So are you being asked to look at a particular part of the business, or are you being asked to look at the entire business? Now, personally, I prefer to look at the entire business because at the end of the day, anything that the business does can have a direct or indirect impact on the experience of the customer.
Mhm.
A very simple and pragmatic approach can be going into an organization and doing what we call a business diagnostic, which is spending a few days walking from end to end, looking at the business, trying to identify where the business adding value to the customer's experience, or spending and identifying areas where there is what we call failure demand, which is spending time fixing problems that shouldn't exist.
Mm.
Now, this business diagnostic approach is a very inside out view of customer experience. It's more like a traditional a traditional business approach to solving customer experience. It can still be effective, but only if it's being done by somebody who has a lot of experience. So to make sure that when you're doing this inside out view of customer experience, you're not um, looking at it too much from a process perspective, and you're looking at it from both a process perspective, but also bearing in mind at all times what the experience of the customer might be. So making sure that whilst you're doing this inside out approach, that you're constantly thinking outside in at the same time, that you're putting yourself in the shoes of the customer whilst you're undertaking that business diagnostic. So that's one way of doing it. That's not my preferred way. My preferred way, we basically follow 8 steps of the process.
Mhm.
The first step is all about data, because data is a very important part of what we do. So with my preferred methodology, the first step is customer profiling, making sure that the organization has all of its separate data points from various different systems around the organization, various different locations and databases, pulled together into customer profiles so that you have as complete a picture of your existing customers as you possibly can. So
Mm.
that's the first step, the profiling. The second step is we go through what we call strategic segmentation, which is all about, a lot of organizations do segmentation, and that's from the perspective of, sometimes they do it for, say, for example, a marketing campaign perspective. Often you'll say, okay, I want to do a marketing campaign, and therefore I need segmented data in order that I can drive this particular campaign.
Mhm.
When I talk about strategic segmentation, I mean something completely different. So I'm talking about taking your entire customer base and splitting it up into groups of customers according to the reason why they're doing business with you. And we use some quite interesting machine learning techniques in order to be able to create what we
Mm.
call unsupervised clusters.
Mhm.
And then we go through the process of identifying those unsupervised clusters according to their behavioral strategic segments. So we're identifying the clusters according to the reason why customers are doing business with the company. So that's the second stage. So profiling first stage, second stage, strategic segmentation using machine learning to identify behavioral segments. The third step is what we call persona building, which is taking the strategic segments that you've identified through in the second step, and then building in a layer of emotional information about customers. Because driven, it helps you understand groups of customers from a data perspective, but it doesn't tell you about their emotions. So within the airline industry, for example, say for example you've broken your customer base down into leisure customers and business customers, and then you look at your business customers and they break down even further. Some of them are like regular business travelers, some of them are long haul business travelers, some of them are, for example, business commuters. Now a business commuter is somebody who jumps on an aeroplane on a Monday morning, they fly to work, they stay away from home from Monday to Friday, and then on a Friday they fly back home again. So this is somebody who flies for business, but the purpose of the flight is in order to get to work from Monday to Friday. So this is a typical typology of a behavioral segment that we might find within the airline industry. Now, using unsupervised clustering, we can identify these business commuters, but we don't understand their emotional motivation. So one example I always give is that a business commuter, their motivation on a Monday morning is to try and get to work as quickly as they possibly can, because their boss wants them to be at an 11 o'clock meeting on a Monday morning. Okay. So then their motivations are very much about, logical, rational, I need to be there on time. Otherwise, my boss and my colleagues won't be happy. But on a Friday night, when they're flying home again, are they still a business commuter? Well, the argument is yes, they are, because they're still commuting back home. But as well as being a business commuter, they are a husband, a wife, a mum, a dad, who haven't seen their husband or their wife or their kids all week. And therefore, don't try and sell them Wi-Fi access. Try and sell them a teddy bear, a bottle of champagne, or a box of chocolates. Now, if we did segmentation without persona building, we wouldn't identify this, because segments are all about data. And therefore, what you need to really do is look at that group, that customer. You need to walk through the journey of that customer and ask themselves, what are their rational and emotional motivations at different moments in the journey? And that helps you evolve the segment into a persona. The fourth stage is customer journey mapping. And with customer journey mapping, a lot of people, it's a well-known phrase, a lot of people talk about it. Often the output I see from customer journey mapping exercises is a map. Often it's a picture somebody's drawn showing the end-to-end journey of the customer. Now, although this can be an output from a customer journey mapping exercise, I would argue that it's not the purpose of doing, the map is not the point. It's not the main purpose. The main point of journey mapping is identifying issues and opportunities. So we call these, we break these issues and opportunities into 4 different categories. So there are moments of truth, pain points, there are commercial opportunities, and there are wow opportunities. So when we're customer journey mapping, we take each separate persona. So say, for example, you identified 8 segments that translate into 8 personas. And then for each of the 8 personas, you do a separate journey mapping exercise, because each of the groups of customers that you have are going to follow a separate customer journey.
Mhm.
So say, for example, I take one of the personas, like the business community we spoke about earlier, and then we go through the process of walking through the steps and stages of the journey, looking at where are the moments of truth, where are the pain points, where are the commercial opportunities, and where are the wow opportunities. And from doing an exercise like that, you can identify hundreds of issues and opportunities. So at the end of the process of customer journey mapping, you're ended up with a list of potentially hundreds and hundreds of issues and opportunities. Now, you take these into a transformation program. But before you take them into a transformation program, there is another step. So profiling, segmentation, persona building, journey mapping. The fifth step is what we call functional alignment. So once we've identified all of these issues and opportunities from journey mapping, we have to get the business to own these issues and opportunities. So we follow a process called functional alignment, which gets the different functions of the business to take ownership of the things that have been identified within customer journey mapping. So that's the fifth step of the process.
Mhm.
The sixth step of the process is transformation. So you take these issues and opportunities that have come out of journey mapping. They've been given ownership by different functional areas of the business through functional alignment. And then the next step is you build them into a transformation program. So you might do activities such as business process engineering. You do activities such as agile design sprints. So for example, solving the problem identified during journey mapping might not be a question of re-engineering a process. It might be a question of developing a new product or something along those lines, or developing a new web portal. And in order to do that, you have to go through some kind of a design activity. So we do something called agile design sprints. So that's the sixth stage of the process. Now, there's two more stages. The seventh stage is what we call brand promise.
Mhm.
Now, branding is an important part of customer experience, because we always say you make your you make your promise to the customer through the brand, but then you have to deliver against that promise through your products, your service, and your channel experiences. So I always say customer experience is like managing two sides of an equation. The promise you make through the brand, and then what you actually deliver to the customer through your product propositions, your channel propositions, and your service proposition. So there are two sides of the equation. So we have to manage. The transformation is all about managing how you change your product channels and service and your service. And the brand promise is all about how you make sure that your brand makes the promise that will be delivered through your products, service, and channels following your transformation activity.
Mhm.
Okay, and then finally, the eighth step of the process is called monitoring. So once you've gone through transformation exercise and you've made a lot of changes in your business, positive changes to improve the experience of the customer, you have to monitor the ongoing performance of your business. So at this point, this is where we might do things such as voice of the customer or mystery shopping.
Mhm.
So those are the 8 steps of the process that we follow. And I mentioned before, obviously, there are other things you can do,
Mhm.
like such as a business diagnostic, which is an inside out look. But the 8-step process that I've just mentioned to you, Gary, is very
Mhm.
much an outside in look at how you change customer experience. So that's how we go about solving the problem.